Shalom viewers and welcome to the program. I'm your presenter and host, Makoha. Our topic of discussion today is about the Sabbath. Yes, today we'll be discussing about the Sabbath. When we talk of the Sabbath, some people may wonder what we mean. But when we talk of the Sabbath, we go back to the creation story that happened in Genesis 1. That will be our basis. Genesis 1 and 2. In Genesis 1, we are told of how God created heaven and earth and all that there is in. Then something happened in Genesis 2. We are going to use the Bible as our norm in most of our programs. The Bible is our guide. The Bible gives us direction. In Genesis 2, I'm reading from verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made. That is the Bible. That after creating heaven, earth, and everything that we can see and some that we cannot see, on the sixth day, God created man in his own image. Then on the seventh day, God decided something different. He decided to rest. He decided to bless that day, and he decided to sanctify that day. Sanctify means he kept that day apart. He set it apart. That is what other versions of the Bible, like this one, that is how they interpret that word sanctify, to set it apart. So we are told there are three key things that God did on the seventh day that were never done with the 6 days of creation: resting, sanctifying, and blessing. Sabbath was one of the gifts that Adam came with from the Garden of Eden. The other one is marriage or a wife, and the other gift was diet. He knew what to eat and what not to eat. Then another one is Sabbath. So when God decided to choose a people who are going to serve him, he chose the Israelites, the 12 tribes of Jacob, or the 12 sons of Jacob. When he chose the Israelites, among the Israelites, God decided to give them what we call the 10 Commandments. In the book of Exodus 20 from verse 8, it says, remember the Sabbath day. Remember. It doesn't say anything other than that. Remember the Sabbath day. Why are they being told to remember? Because it had been a practice among the Israelites to keep the Sabbath day. So they are being reminded. You cannot be told to remember something that you don't know. You are told to remember something that is accustomed to do, something that you are used to it, something that you know, it's familiar with you. That is what you are told to remember. And that is why the fourth commandment started with the words, remember the Sabbath day. The Sabbath was kept before the children of Israel reached Mount Sinai. That is written in the Bible, the book of Exodus. Go with me. Exodus 16. We are reading from verse 23. It reads, then he said to them, this is the word the Lord has said. Tomorrow is a Sabbath rest a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you will bake today, and boil what you will boil, and lay up for yourself all that remains to be kept until morning. So the children of Israel, while in the desert, in the wilderness, they used to keep the Sabbath. And it remained like that. When Jesus came to the world, let's go to the New Testament, because some scriptures are better understood when we read from the New Testament and compare what happened in the Old Testament. When he came to the world, this is what he said. I'm reading from the book of Luke 4, verses 16. Luke chapter 4, verses 16. So he came to Nazareth, that is Jesus. So he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. We are told that Jesus had a custom of going unto the synagogue on the Sabbath day. That is what we are told. So Jesus had his own custom, and his custom was to follow what Israelites, follow what God had commanded from the beginning. That on the Sabbath day, he's supposed to rest, he's supposed to go to the synagogue and read. Some people say that Jesus came to abolish the Sabbath. Let's look in the book of Matthew 5. Matthew chapter 5, verses 17. And it reads, "Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill." That is Jesus. He says that he didn't come to the world to destroy the laws, but he came to the world to fulfill, to amplify, to show mankind how to keep the laws of God. That is why he had a custom of going to the synagogue every Sabbath day to worship. Some say that Sabbath is for the Jewish. They are the Israelites who are given the Sabbath to remember it. But Jesus has a different opinion. Let's look in the book of Mark and see what he says as far as Sabbath is concerned. Mark chapter 2, I'm reading from verse 27. "And he said to them, The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath." My dear viewer, Jesus is saying that Sabbath was made for man, not for Jews, not for Israelites, but Sabbath was made for man. Provided you are part of the roots of Adam, Sabbath was meant for you. So if you don't keep it, if you don't obey God's commandment and keep the Sabbath, then you are placing yourself outside God's salvation. You are placing yourself outside the way he has set for mankind to be saved. And that is to keep his commandments. After Jesus had been crucified and went to his Father, the disciples were left here on earth. Let's see what was their custom. I'm reading from the book of Acts 17 verses 2. Acts 17 verses 2, it reads, "Then Paul, as his custom was, went into them, and for 3 Sabbaths reasoned with them from the scriptures." Now, my viewer, this is Paul, an apostle who was sent to the Gentiles. We are told that he had a custom just like Jesus, and his custom was to go to the synagogue during the Sabbath days to reason with the people about the scriptures. That was the custom of Paul. It was the same custom of Jesus. It was the same custom of God, because he rested on the Sabbath day. But humanity, mankind, has gone against the laws of God. That is why they disobey the Sabbath of God. Sabbath, we are being told, from Genesis to the place we read, we were told it is on the 7th day. But mankind at the moment, they decide. We are not told to decide for ourselves which day to make it the Sabbath. Because there are 3 things that God did on that day, which you as a man cannot do. God rested, God sanctified, and God blessed the Sabbath day. So if you reject the Sabbath of God and decide to keep any other day among the 7 days, you decide any day to keep and rest, my friend, you cannot bless that day. You cannot sanctify it. It's only God who can bless, and it's only God who can sanctify that day. So I challenge you today that remember the Sabbath day, because it is the only day that God blessed. It is the only day that God sanctified. It is the only day that Jesus rested. It is the only day that Apostle Paul and other apostles rested and kept it holy. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 11 verses 1, this is what he says: imitate me, just as I also imitate Christ. Imitate, follow the footprints of Paul, just as Paul was following the footprints of Christ. We have shown from the scriptures that indeed Paul followed the footprints of Jesus. Indeed, Paul imitated Christ because he kept the Sabbath, just as Christ kept the Sabbath. What of you, my friend? What of you, my dear viewer? Are you imitating Paul? Are you imitating Jesus, the one who kept the Sabbath? Or are you imitating other people? So, dear friend, today, that is the message. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. May the Lord show you the way. May the Lord lead you so that you know the true Sabbath and keep it holy. Be blessed and make the Bible be your friend. Shalom.